Marketing Dividends, presented by the Australian Association of National Advertisers, inspiring responsible, innovative and respected marketing.
In Marketing Dividends, we take a look at the business challenges facing Australia's leading advertisers. Now today, how Australia is tracking in the global tourism industry, including the hype around virtual reality and what it means for marketers. And of course, how to get the balance right between content marketing and paid media. Joining me is James Hier, CEO of media agency MEC, and Lisa Ronson, Chief Marketing Officer and Consumer Marketing at Tourism Australia. Welcome to you both. Welcome,
Nadine.
Lisa. Good
Thank
to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
I think just to set the scene, talk to us about how Australia is tracking when it comes to the global tourism market, and I guess what are the main countries that we're up against at this time?
Absolutely. Pleased to say we're tracking really, really well in the global market. Currently, we are the most aspirational and the most intended to visit destination for long-haul travellers who we specifically look at. And I'm pleased to say also that last year we welcomed 8.1 million visitors to our shores, which was an increase of about 11% on the year prior. From a competitive point of view, our main competition is the powerhouse of Europe, and specifically France and Italy, the United States, and more recently, Japan.
Okay.
Countries always love to talk about our number of visitors. Is this a volume game, though, or is this a value game?
Look, they are linked, but for us it's very much about value. Our role as a tourism body is to make sure that we generate tourism spend to contribute back to the Australian economy. So it's very much about expenditure, and we unashamedly focus on a high yield inbound traveller that comes long haul. So it's very much about targeting that customer that's going to spend the most money rather than targeting a mass amount of customers to come to Australia.
And we have that 2020 goal put out by the government. I believe it's $115 billion in overnight spend by the time 2020 rolls around. I mean, how are we tracking in that regard?
Look, we're tracking really well. So in the past year, we've generated $98.6 billion in tourism expenditure, which is an increase of about 7.5% on the year prior. It is our joint industry goal to get to $115 billion annually in tourism expenditure by 2020. Based on the current Tourism Research Australia forecast, we're looking quite comfortably to get to that. That will go in my KPIs after this interview, but we should beat it by a good $10 billion.
I wonder, do you keep that sort of goal, hopefully within our borders? You don't want other people you don't want to show our hand to other countries, do you?
Well, it is an all of tourism industry goal, so we do communicate that more broadly in this industry and make sure that we've got buy-in by the states and the industry operators as well, because we are working together to target that customer to come to Australia. So it's very much an all-of-team industry effort.
Okay.
And when you talk about that customer, when that long-haul passenger walks out in Sydney, how do you know what marketing's contribution was to getting her here?
They walk out in Sydney very happy, James, is the other part of that equation. No, look, we can't get to 100% attribution modelling. We're not a travel agent. We don't sell travel packages. It's not like we can put a message into the market on a Tuesday and know that we've sold, 100 packages on the Wednesday. So we look at a number of different data points. Ultimately, the numbers that we've already talked about today, which is spend and visitation. But before we get to that, we look at lead indicators such as our website traffic. So when we launched our Aquatic and Coastal campaign in New York in January of last year, we had record visitation and engagement on our website the next day, which gave us a very clear indicator that that campaign was resonating with our target consumers. We then, through the funnel, look at things like Google Analytics to see how well Australia is tracking from a Google search terms, and then, as I said, we ultimately track spend and visitation.
Now that we're talking about marketing and advertising in particular, is the weight of expectation on your advertising campaigns pronounced because you are actually representing Australia? You're representing Australians. Does that really sort of weigh on, I guess, any risk-taking that you could potentially take?
Look, the first part of the question is yes, we take that very seriously. The Australian public have a a very vested interest in the work that we produce, and rightly so. They're passionate about Australia as we are. They're passionate about being Australian, so they want to make sure that we're representing the country in a way that they feel is very emotionally engaging and is very representative of them as a people. So we make sure that we don't take that lightly. From a risk-taking profile, we don't go into the creative process thinking about a risk profile. We think very much about who is our target customer and what are we trying to get them to do, and that starts the creative process. And then we test it with a number of stakeholders to make sure that we're getting it on point and, you know, not disrupting a whole lot of consumers. But happy to say that the campaign that we ran last year was very well received by 99% of the Australian population, so you can't ask for more. I was very relieved, I must say.
And a lot of the work you're doing is around content. In your previous role at Westpac, a very successful air rescue series, you've now done Restaurant Australia. What is content marketing's role for marketers as you see it?
Well, I think there's broadcast content, which is very relevant, for high involvement products like what we had at Westpac, or particularly tourism. It is a high involvement product. It is not cheap. It has a lot of research that goes into it. And with broadcast, it gives us the scope and the time to really be able to feature Australia as a destination. We want to be able to showcase Australia as a very diverse destination when it comes to experiences, which is what the international traveller or travellers in general are really seeking out these days. They want to seek those very authentic experiences, and so broadcast gives us a great opportunity to be able to do that. But content is relevant, I think, for all marketers, just not broadcast content as such.
And you know, with content, you tend to want to put it in your owned platforms as well. You've certainly called out travel marketers that they should be using owned and earned in a better way. How are you bringing that to bear when you're thinking about investment between paid and owned and earned?
Well, for us, there's no silver bullet. The key for us is to make sure that all of those platforms are connected. Because as I mentioned before, Australia can be a little bit of an abstract destination when thinking about itineraries and how to get around. So we very much focus on our own channel with some of, you know, the more basic content like itineraries, trip planners, weather information, visa information. So some stuff that's not what we would think that interesting, but it's really important for a prospective traveller. We need to make sure that we've got that information right. We also look to our earned channels, and advocacy is a really important factor in choosing a travel destination. There's an authenticity in hearing from, you know, our friends of Australia around their great experiences of Australia, or some of their friends on social media where they went and what they did to help them make that travel decision. And then we use paid media to inspire consumers, and then they then go onto our owned and look at our earned channels to really bring those dots together and plan their holiday to Australia. So they have to be linked.
And then, you know, we get to social media, and you have a huge volume of content being produced by users of social media. So how do you sort of exercise some sort of control, or really leverage off of that in a very positive way?
Great question. We get about 3,000 pieces of content a day. So we're very, very fortunate. Our team have some very specific processes and systems in place to really make sure that they're getting the best of the best content. And part of that is really educating our industry and our consumers around what makes great engaging content. And that comes from us, and they also share it with each other. So it's from us to the community and the community to the community. And we found that through some of these education and sharing, that the quality of that content that we do get 3,000 pieces a day is outstanding. It really is, you know, fantastic content that we utilise through different channels.
And so how do you measure the commercial value of that type of content?
Well, we've got some great examples, one being Symbio Wildlife Park. They've had 150 million points of engagement on just what we've shared on our platforms, and we know that after we shared some of those on our platforms, their visitation to their park has increased 60% as a direct result of what we've done. Absolutely. And we hear so many of those great stories every day. It's not just that one example. So we know that we get great engagement, and it leads to the bottom line.
Digital walks naturally into data. You've set up some data sharing deals with Qantas and Virgin.
Yep.
A lot of companies are doing this. I'm not too sure where the value sits in that. Can you explain how you're using it at Tourism Australia?
Sure. Using data is really about efficiency. It's about getting the right message to the right customer at the right time. And through data and data sharing deals, we can provide a very simple example, we can understand who has actually booked a trip to Australia or who hasn't booked a trip to Australia. So you can imagine those two variables, you're in a very different situation in the travel purchase funnel. If you have booked a trip to Australia, we won't bother, serving up come to Australia messages. We'll start serving up here's the experiences that you can do when you're in Australia,
right,
or capital city type messages. So it very much defines and controls what message we send to that consumer, so it's more efficient.
And there are lots of different types of messages, and travel marketing seems to be right on the edge of the right sort of content, virtual reality being the two words on everyone's lips.
Yep.
But I'm interested in the consumer take-up of that. You did a lot of work with Chris Hemsworth in the US.
Yep.
And had to drop that name in.
Chrissy, I like to call her. What did you see in terms of take-up? It's great to put it on the schedule. Is it getting results?
Absolutely. As I mentioned previously, we had record engagement on our website the day after we launched with Chris Hemsworth. There we go, we've got it out there again. And we found that using 360 and VR, it presents the country in such an immersive way, and that's what we aim to do. We are ultimately storytellers, and we can use that sort of technology to bring the story of Australia to life in a very unique and immersive way. So we've had a lot of success with it, and the penetration of VR is increasing. We know that from Google Analytics that virtual reality was searched 4 times more this year than what it was last year.
Wow.
So it's going to take time, but we can see it rapidly increasing.
Okay, Lisa, we'll have to wrap it there. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
Really interesting
Thank you for
stuff.
having me.
Also, James Hier, thank you. Lisa is the Chief Marketing Officer and for Consumer Marketing at Tourism Australia. That's all we have for Marketing Dividends this time around, but join us next month. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. We'll get a wrap of the market when we return.
Marketing Dividends, presented by the Australian Association of National Advertisers, inspiring responsible, innovative and respected marketing.